You may think you're falling behind lately, but your nervous system may simply be tired of living under constant internal pressure, always trying to keep up, always trying to stay prepared, always feeling like rest has to be earned first. And eventually, the body stops responding to pressure the same way it once did. Not because you're failing, because your inner world is asking for stabilization instead of more emotional overdrive. Lately, your exhaustion may feel deeper than simple physical tiredness. Like your mind has been carrying invisible emotional weight for too long without fully putting it down. Trying to stay productive, trying to stay emotionally composed, trying to keep moving, even when your nervous system quietly needs recovery. And the difficult part is, many people don't recognize they're emotionally overwhelmed until their inner world starts resisting the pace completely. Suddenly, everything feels heavier. Small tasks feel draining. Conversations require more energy. Even rest doesn't fully feel restorative at first. That's why this Taurus energy is slowing things down now. Not to punish you, to help your nervous system remember what stability feels like again. The Taurus New Moon is continuing to expose something important now. How much of your life may have been built around emotional pressure? Pressure to keep performing, pressure to stay productive, pressure to emotionally hold everything together, even while your nervous system quietly struggles underneath it all. And after enough time, the body begins reacting differently. Not laziness, not failure. Fatigue from prolonged emotional overdrive. That's why slowing down may feel emotionally uncomfortable lately. Because part of your system became used to equating constant movement with safety. But healing often begins the moment you stop measuring your worth through exhaustion alone. Some people become so used to functioning under pressure, they stop realizing how tense their nervous system actually is. Always thinking ahead, always emotionally preparing, always carrying the feeling that something still needs to be fixed before they can finally relax. And eventually, even peaceful moments start feeling temporary, like part of the body is still waiting for stress to return again. That kind of emotional exhaustion builds quietly over time, not always through dramatic breakdowns, sometimes through years of constantly overriding your own limits just to keep moving. And maybe lately, your inner world has been trying to tell you something honestly. You cannot heal properly while treating emotional pressure like a permanent lifestyle. You may notice now that your body reacts differently to pressure than it once did. Things that used to feel manageable suddenly feel emotionally draining faster. Loud environments, constant notifications, emotionally demanding conversations. Even small amounts of stress can feel heavier lately. That's not weakness. That's what happens when a nervous system has been overloaded for too long without enough recovery. And under Pluto retrograde, those deeper emotional survival patterns become harder to ignore. especially the patterns that taught you to keep pushing forward, even while your inner world quietly needed rest. Because eventually, the body stops cooperating with a pace that no longer feels emotionally sustainable. But healing does not mean you suddenly stop caring about life. And it does not mean avoiding every difficult responsibility either. That's important to understand now. Your nervous system is not asking you to emotionally disconnect from the world. It's asking you to stop living in constant internal urgency. There's a difference. Because some pressure in life is temporary and manageable. But constantly forcing yourself to override emotional exhaustion is something else entirely. That's where burnout begins quietly. And lately, your awareness may be becoming more honest about what your inner world can sustainably carry long term. Not from weakness, from self-respect. And maybe part of what your nervous system needs right now is permission to stop carrying everything so tightly. Not giving up, not becoming careless, just loosening the constant emotional grip you've been holding for too long. Because survival mode often teaches people that relaxing means falling behind, that slowing down means losing control. But lately, your inner world may be realizing something different. That peace actually creates more clarity, more stability, more emotional capacity, more room to think, feel, and breathe clearly again. And maybe healing begins the moment you stop treating rest like something you need to earn through exhaustion first. You may be realizing now that stability is becoming more important to you than constant emotional intensity. Not because you've become less passionate, because your nervous system is becoming more honest about what actually supports your well-being long term. That changes people quietly. You begin craving calmer environments, healthier routines, more emotionally consistent connections. Not perfection, sustainability. And under this Taurus energy, that shift matters deeply. Because real healing is not built through emotional extremes. It's built through smaller daily choices that slowly teach the body we no longer need to survive every moment like a crisis. And maybe lately, your inner world has finally started believing a softer way of living might actually be possible for you too. There may be moments lately where your body finally softens without you planning it. A quiet morning light, a slower walk outside, music playing softly in the background. A few seconds where your mind stops racing ahead and simply exists inside the present moment. Those moments matter more than they seem. Because sometimes healing does not arrive through massive breakthroughs. Sometimes it arrives through stillness, finally feeling safe enough to stay. And maybe lately, your nervous system has been searching for more of that quiet space naturally. Not to escape life, but to remember what calmness feels like without immediately expecting it to disappear again. The body remembers what emotional overdrive feels like again. The tension carried into sleep, the constant mental noise, the feeling of always needing to stay emotionally prepared for what could go wrong next. But slowly, the body can also remember what relief feels like again. A deeper breath, a quieter room, a moment where your nervous system doesn't feel trapped inside urgency. That's why this phase is asking you to pay closer attention to what actually brings your system back into balance now. Not everything deserves continued access to your energy. Not every pace is sustainable. And maybe healing is becoming less about forcing yourself to keep enduring pressure and more about building a life your nervous system no longer feels the need to escape from. You may notice now that your body has been asking for simpler forms of care lately. More sleep, more quiet mornings, more distance from constant emotional overstimulation. That isn't laziness. That's your nervous system trying to stabilize itself again. Because healing does not only happen emotionally, it happens physically too. Through slower breathing, through deeper rest, through moments where the body no longer feels like it has to remain emotionally guarded all day long. And maybe part of your growth now is finally respecting what your inner world has been trying to communicate for a long time. That peace is not something you earn after burnout. It's something your nervous system needs in order to heal properly at all. What's changing right now may not appear dramatic externally, but internally, your relationship with pressure is beginning to shift. You're becoming more aware of what overwhelms your nervous system, more honest about what emotionally drains you, and more protective of the peace your inner world has been slowly rebuilding. That matters deeply, because healing often begins quietly. A calmer reaction, a healthier boundary, a slower breath during moments that once would have overwhelmed you completely. Those smaller shifts reshape people over time, especially under Taurus energy. Because Taurus does not rush transformation. It grounds it deeply enough to actually last. And maybe that steadier way of living is exactly what your nervous system has been trying to guide you toward all along. So maybe today, you do not need to keep measuring your worth through how much pressure you can survive. Maybe your nervous system does not need more urgency right now. Maybe what your inner world has truly been asking for is stabilization. Space to slow down. Space to breathe clearly again. Space to exist without constantly preparing for emotional exhaustion before it even arrives. Because not every moment requires hypervigilance. And not every quiet moment needs to be interrupted with internal pressure. Sometimes healing begins when the body finally realizes we are safe enough to stop carrying everything so tightly now. And maybe that softer, steadier rhythm is exactly where this next chapter of your life is trying to lead you. And if you're still here, listening, Maybe your nervous system needed this reminder today. A reminder that slowing down does not mean you are falling behind. Sometimes it means your inner world is finally trying to heal properly. So, thank you for giving yourself these quieter moments, for allowing yourself to pause long enough to actually listen to what your body has been trying to communicate underneath all the noise. And tonight, you do not need to carry tomorrow all at once. Let your shoulders soften a little. Let your breathing slow naturally. Let yourself exist without emotional overdrive for a little while longer. More clarity will come. More stability will come. For now, just stay here inside this steadier rhythm a while longer.